Sometime around the year 750, in a small stone church in the town of Lanciano on the Adriatic coast of central Italy, a Basilian monk lifted a piece of unleavened bread above the altar and spoke the words of consecration. He had been struggling for months with doubt. The central claim of the Catholic Mass was that this bread became the body of Christ at the moment he spoke. He did not believe it. He said the words anyway. According to the account written down by his order and preserved in the church archive, the bread changed in his hands. It became a circle of flesh. The wine in the chalice thickened and clotted into 5 irregular globules of what looked like blood. The monk, the attending deacons, and the congregation all saw it. The Basilian community placed the flesh and the 5 blood pellets in an ivory reliquary on the altar. They are still there. The Basilian order who kept the relic was an Eastern monastic community that had fled the Byzantine iconoclasm of the early 8th century, settling in Lanciano under the protection of the local bishop. The monk who performed the Mass that morning is not named in any of the surviving documents. The tradition records only that he had doubted and that he had been changed by what he saw. The relic was kept in Lanciano under continuous custody for the next 12 centuries. It passed from the Basilian monks to the Benedictines in the 11th century, and from the Benedictines to the conventual friars minor in 1252, who still hold it today. It has been examined and resealed by Catholic authorities at least 18 separate times across that span. The first formal scientific examination of the relic happened in 1574. Archbishop Antonio Rodríguez of Lanciano had the 5 blood pellets weighed individually, then together, on an apothecary's balance. The pellets, ranging in size from a kernel of corn to a small pebble, each weighed the same as all 5 combined. The result was witnessed by his archdiocesan notary and entered into the official ecclesiastical record. The experiment was repeated in 1637 and in 1770. Each result was identical. Each archbishop who commissioned the weighing left a signed declaration. The relic was then resealed in a new reliquary, with the seal broken only for the next investigation. The flesh on the altar was, in 1574, already more than 800 years old. There was no preservative chemical of any kind in the reliquary. Witnessed, documented miracles every week. If you want next week's, subscribe. The modern investigation began in 1970. Archbishop Pacifico Perantoni of Lanciano, with the consent of the conventual friars, commissioned Dr. Odoardo Linoli, professor of anatomy and pathological histology, chemistry, and clinical microscopy at the Hospital of Arezzo, to examine the relic. Linoli was joined by Professor Ruggero Bertelli, retired professor of normal human anatomy at the University of Siena. The 2 men took samples in November 1970 under canonical seal, transported them under seal to Arezzo, and ran them through the standard battery of histological, immunological, and chemical analyses. The results were published in the scientific journal Quaderni Sclavo di Diagnostica Clinica e di Laboratorio in 1971. The flesh was striated muscular tissue from the wall of a human heart, identified as myocardium from the left ventricle. The blood was human, type AB. No preservative was detected, no embalming agent, no mummification treatment of any kind. In 1973, the World Health Organization appointed a separate scientific commission, which spent 15 months independently rerunning every test. Their findings were identical to Linoli's. Linoli published a second, more detailed examination in 1981, and his results have stood unchallenged. No peer-reviewed paper has contradicted them. The protein fractionation of the 8th century blood sample matched the protein fractionation of blood freshly drawn from a healthy adult. The cardiac tissue showed the histology of a myocardial wall that had recently stopped beating. Not embalmed, not desiccated, not decomposed. The relic has remained in its reliquary continuously from 1971 to the present, exposed to ordinary atmospheric conditions. It has not visibly decomposed in any measurable way. The flesh and the 5 blood pellets are on display today in a silver monstrance on the high altar of the Sanctuary of the Eucharistic Miracle, formerly the Church of San Francesco in Lanciano. There is no admission fee. The relic is visible behind glass at eye level. You can walk in any morning, any afternoon, and see for yourself a section of human cardiac tissue that has been sitting on an altar for 1,275 years. Witnessed, documented, inexplicable.